Alrighty, so you've learned all the scales that you've been told to learn, you practice them regularly, and you still don't see yourself getting better at actually playing music? Well, guess what? This video is for you. I'm going to show you how to practice your scales in the best way in order to start making music with them now. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm Daniel Seriff, and on this channel every week I'm sharing with you the things that I've learned over the last 15 years as a professional guitarist and teacher, and sharing them with you, the intermediate guitarist, so that you can learn everything you need to know in order to improve. So if you're new to this channel, make sure to click that subscribe button and ring that bell so you know every time I upload a new video. Alrighty, so today I'm talking about making your scales sound more like music and less like just scales. Now let's be real, we all have spent time learning the scales and trying to get them under our fingers, and that's kind of a prerequisite for this lesson. So if you haven't ever learned any scales before, you should check out some of my other lessons. I have a few here on my channel that, some that are based around the pentatonic scale, some that are based on more of like the 5 shapes, major scale system, that kind of thing. Make sure you check out those. In this lesson, we're gonna specifically talk about what I call shape 1 of the major scale. We're gonna do it in the key of D major. I'll have diagrams, and just like all the recent lessons I've been doing, there'll be PDFs below that you can download and you can print and you can play along. So in the cage system, people call this the E shape. Again, we're gonna do it in the key of D major, and that will be there with the root middle finger 10th fret. Again, diagram here. All right, so let's jump into the number 1, the first tip that I highly recommend. Don't do what I just did for practice. What I mean by that is, don't just practice playing the scale straight up and down. This is something when I teach my in-person students that I'm surprised to find, and also not surprised at all, because it's so common. They just, when they say they practice their scales, they take their scale, they literally play it from the lowest note to the highest note and back down. Now I just want to demonstrate how cheesy this sounds in a musical context. So check that out here. All right, so it's clear that no one on the guitar that we love and we listen to all the time plays their scales straight up and down as a musical statement, right? It just doesn't work. It sounds goofy. It sounds silly. Don't do it, okay? So once you have the scales under your fingers, it is so important for you to stop playing them straight up and down for practice, okay? That's the number 1 tip. In the next tips, I'm gonna show you how to do it instead, okay? So let's jump into the second tip here. Okay, so the second tip is an idea for specific practice of your scales. And this concept is called note grouping practice, okay? It's fairly straightforward, but it might be confusing if you don't know your scales well already. But I'm gonna go through it pretty quickly. You'll be able to follow along. And also, again, you can download a tab below if you'd like. All right, so this second tip here, note group practice. In this lesson, I'm gonna talk about 3 note groups, okay? Now this is a 7-note scale that we're using here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1. There's no 8. Don't ever call that high 1 and 8. It doesn't exist. 1 is always 1. Okay? So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this scale in sets of notes, okay? We're gonna play our first note, our second note, our third note. That's the first little set. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna go back a note. We're gonna play 2, 3, 4. Back a note, 3, 4, 5. Back a note, 4, 5, 6. Back a note, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7, 1. And again, that's in a tab below. You can download that. But I just want to show you how that will sound in a musical context. So here you go. Okay, great. So that was the ascending version of the scale. And now let's look at how that 3-note group would sound descending. Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and start on the highest note of the scale here. It's the 2, okay? And we're gonna go down 2, 1, 7, 1, 7, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 5, 4, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and again in the tab, it's all written out, the whole piece. Let's see how that sounds in the musical context. Alrighty, great. So the third and final part of the lesson today, right, we talked about number 1, that you gotta stop playing your scales straight up and down for practice. Number 2, it would be great to practice your scales in a note grouping kind of style of practice. That works really well. You heard it, it sounded pretty neat, pretty musical. The third part of this lesson is any exercise, any concept that you're doing in the scale, once you get it under your fingers, you have to stop playing it verbatim. What I mean by that is, if I told you that I wanted you to practice the scale and I wanted you to use the 3-note groups practice, it's really important that you don't just play it from beginning to end in a verbatim way, meaning like this. You will not hear the great masters of the guitar take technical practices and play that in a musical context, right? Instead, we simply have to start using it as an improvisation concept. What I mean by that, the difference between playing it verbatim and playing it in an improvisatory way, big word, is that essentially all you have to do is make a choice. And that next choice might be, hey, do I want to play the next one up, the next 3-note group up? Do I want to play one down? Do I want to ascend? Do I want to descend? And making that choice is the difference between a verbatim exercise and actually improvisation. So let me show you how that might sound in a musical context. Okay, so now that you heard that, you realize that, oh, wow, this little exercise concept, if I just start to make choices with it, ascending, descending, mix it up, repeat it, change the rhythm, if I add these variations, then all of a sudden my scales start to sound like music rather than just scales. And that's the whole point of this. So, I hope you dug this lesson. You know, just to review, number 1, don't practice your scales straight up and down. Once you have them together, start manipulating them, making music out of them. Number 2, 3-note groups are a great way to navigate practicing the scale in kind of a more unique and musical way, a way that's been used for hundreds of years, from early classical composers to jazz musicians to now, everything. And then number 3, start working improvisation, where you make choices, whether it be choices based around an exercise or just when you're jamming to a track, force yourself to try and vary the rhythm, mix it up a little bit. All of a sudden, you'll have more mental bandwidth to help you make those decisions in real time. Okay, great. So if you dug the lesson or if you have any questions, as always, make sure leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you're interested in kind of learning more about this stuff and my approach to guitar, go ahead, head over to my website, www.danielseriff.com. There you can download a great program called the Diagonal Pentatonic Blueprint. It'll help you play the pentatonic scale across the entire guitar neck. And I'll see you next week. Take care.